Hello, friends. I'm so glad you've joined me for another week of learning a story from the Bible and talking about a character trait. This week, we're going to talk about perseverance. Do you know what that means? Perseverance, let me show you what it means, and I'm going to read it to you. Perseverance is not giving up on something even if it's really hard. Let me say that again. Perseverance is not giving up on something even if it's really hard. That's not an easy thing to do, is it? But we're going to talk about a story in the Bible that you all know that a man shows perseverance. All right? So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to read a scripture about perseverance, and then I'm going to read you our story and tell you what you're going to do. So, the scripture I have for you is Galatians 6:9. It says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." So what that means is sometimes things get really hard in life, but we need to keep working, and eventually we'll get to go to heaven with God because we're working for His good. That's what that means. And what it goes along with perseverance, because that's what perseverance means. Pushing through the hard things that aren't always fun to do. There are things on this earth that are not always fun to do, but we need to push through those things. All right, so we're in the book of Genesis, and it is in chapter 6. So it's at the very beginning of the Bible, in the first chapter of the Bible in the Old Testament, and it is Noah. We've talked about him before. You know this story. It's a great story that you've all learned from when you were little, but we're going to look at it in a little bit different way. All right, so I'm going to read it to you. So this is from, I've got my Bible with me right here. This is from Genesis 6, and it starts in verse 9, and then we're going to read into chapter 7. So there's kind of a lot of verses, but it paints us a really great picture, and so I wanted to read it to you straight from the Bible. All right. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, "I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood. Make rooms in it and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Make a roof for it and finish the ark to within 18 inches of the top. Put a door in the side of the ark and make lower, middle, and upper decks. I am going to bring floodwaters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens. Every creature that has the breath of life in it, everything on earth will perish. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. You are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, and of every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and store it away as food for you and for them." Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Okay, so God's given him this list of things. He's saying, I need you to do these things. I need you to build an ark. Here's the instructions of how to build it. I'm going to put you and your family on the ark. And then I also am going to have you gather all these animals. And you have to gather all their food. So he gave him all these instructions. And Noah did exactly what he asked him to do. So he persevered there first. Okay, this is chapter 7. Then the Lord said to Noah, "Go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation. Take with you 7 of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 2 of every kind of unclean animal, a male and its mate, and also 7 of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth. 7 days from now I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will wipe from the face of the earth every living creature I have made." And Noah did all that God commanded him. Okay, So again, he's going to tell them a little bit more things to do. Gather of the clean animals 7 of each, and then of the unclean animals 2 of each. And they're going to get on the ark, and then 7 days from then he's going to send the rain, and he's going to send 40 days and 40 nights. And Noah did everything that God asked him to do. Okay, verse 6 of chapter 7. Noah was 600 years old when the floodwaters came on the earth. And Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives entered the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Pairs of clean and unclean animals, of birds, and of all creatures that move along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark, as God had commanded Noah. And after the 7 days, the floodwaters came on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the 2nd month, on that day, all of the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were open, and rain fell on the earth 40 days. Can you imagine being on the ark for 40 days with all those animals? We talked about that at the very, very beginning of all of our lessons, but it still just makes my mind think, oh my goodness, what would I have done? And through that, Noah perseveres. On that day, Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, together with their wife and the wives of his 3 sons, entered the ark. They had with them every wild animal according to its kind, all livestock according to their kinds, every creature that moves along the ground according to its kind, and every bird according to its kind, everything with wings. Pairs of all creatures that had the breath of life in them came to Noah and entered the ark. The animals going in were male and female of every living thing, as God had commanded Noah. Then the Lord shut him in, so he put him on the ark. For 40 days the flood kept coming on the earth, and as the water increased, they lifted the ark high above the earth. The waters rose and increased greatly on the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the water. They rose greatly on the earth, and all the high mountains under the entire heavens were covered. The waters rose and covered the mountains to a depth of more than 20 feet. Okay, so they got on the ark. God shut the door. Everybody's in there taken care of. And then the water starts to rise, and it rises and it rises. It rises so much so that it is 20 feet above the mountains. Have you ever been in the mountains? I love going to the mountains. I did a few lessons from the mountains a while ago. And when you are up high on those mountains, can you imagine 20 feet more above that? That would be crazy. Let me give you an example. A lot of people, or a lot of guys, are around 6 feet tall. So if you put 3 of your dad on top of those mountains, that's how high they were above the mountains. They were so far above the mountains. It was crazy. All right. Every living thing that moved on the earth perished. Birds, livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that swarm on the earth, and all mankind. Everything on dry land that had the breath of life in its nostrils died. The waters flooded the earth for 150 days. Guys, that is what's so incredible about this story, is Noah is stuck on this ark with all these animals. He and his family, they're taking care of these animals, and he perseveres through that. That would be hard. It's hard taking care of one animal, much less hundreds of animals that you're trying to save and protect with God's help. And he did that. He did all of that. And so that's where I'm going to stop our story today. I'll continue reading on tomorrow, the rest of the story, because there is a little bit more of that story in chapter 8. But that's what we're talking about, perseverance. Perseverance is going through something that's hard and still keeping going all the way to the finish. And that's what Noah did. All right? I hope you had fun listening to scripture today. And tomorrow I'm going to pick up where we ended the story today. Have a great evening or afternoon or day whenever you're watching this. I'll see you tomorrow.